Hi Aries, welcome to your October 2018 Astro Update. I'm Raina, and in the month of October, you're going to see a lot of relationship energy happening because the 7th and 8th houses are really going to be front and center where these transits are occurring for the most part. And let me just kind of review. Your opposite sign is Libra, and that is that 7th house of committed partnership. The 7th house can also relate to legal affairs, so I have a feeling that is going to be in play for some Aries people because the other big rock star influence in October is the 8th house that Scorpio rules. And you have the Venus retrograde on the 5th of the month beginning in this 8th house. The 8th house is the house of intimacy. Now, everyone's mind immediately goes to sex, doesn't it? But actually, intimacy, if you really want to know the truth, I think, first and foremost, is emotional intimacy. And this is because Scorpio is a water sign. So the 8th house is a water house. And as such, it really is dealing with the emotions as well as the intuition or psychic activity that this house in particular specializes in. I would say like the secrets of the universe and, metaphysics, the occult, but also the dead is connected to the 8th house. And so it could even be like seances, communicating with the dead, having that ability to communicate with those who have crossed over. So we have that featured quite a bit as well. And this can be other people's money, the 8th house. So that is kind of coming into play with some of these transits. Okay, so let me just start from the beginning. The month starts with the sun in your opposite sign, Libra, 7th house, while Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, is in the 8th house. And what this can mean is that with Venus in a money house, Venus can attract money to you through other people. So if there's any kind of probate issue, this could be favorable for you. But remember that this is the house that Venus retrogrades from. And this is actually happening on the 5th of the month. Venus retrogrades at 10 degrees of Scorpio. It will be in this retrograde motion in the 8th house until the last day of the month when it dips back into the 7th house. So because the 7th house can involve the law, there could be some kind of a legal battle taking place. Or if you are going through a divorce, you may be kind of divvying up the marital pot. And I'm talking about money here, not the kind that you smoke. But yeah, so that could be really what's happening. And it's interesting because the sun is in that 7th house. The sun is a very positive, strong influence. So I have a feeling that the likelihood of it being a marital issue is not as great, although it could simply be saying that all of the attention is on marital issues, the legal system. It could be saying that for sure. So it's possible that some of you are getting divorced, but this is something you already know about. This isn't something that is going to take you by surprise. You're already knee-deep in whatever is going on as the month of October unfolds, I should say. So Venus going retrograde in this 8th house can mean that something is being reworked or maybe going awry. But remember that this too shall pass. Don't go, oh my God, I'm going to lose this investment, or I'm not going to get this loan, or something like that. Like Mercury retrograde, these are personal planets that affect us in a very immediate way, but they have a very short transit. Venus is going to go direct in your 7th house on the 16th of November. So it's about 5 weeks or so, or a little bit over that. That's not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm thinking back to when Jupiter went retrograde and how many months that was. Probably about 5 months. So 5 weeks, 5 months, big difference. So that could be something to do with money that is not getting settled at this time, that there's some kind of a review. It's an internalized thing, so you may even have to question your values, because Venus is about your values. When it comes into this area, this arena, this could be about, like, maybe there is some kind of a family squabble in relationship to a will. And you might say to yourself, do I really want to, they have this expression, die on this hill. Do I really want to possibly risk alienation from others in my family because I want this money? Or can I just allow the universe to decide? What is it worth to me? And it might be worth it, because there may be more to the story where you feel like it's karmically how how it should be, that you have the rightful ownership to something in terms of like some shared resources, whether it be with your ex-spouse or with a family member. Maybe they were very adamant that you receive this money, and these other people were not in the will, and they are trying to get a piece of the action. And the person who passed on had a very good reason for why they did what they did. And then in that case, fighting for it is something that should happen. So there's not like a one size fits all. Now, this could be about a marital issue. You may have this sense of wanting to get something because really underlying it all, you want to kind of maybe seek revenge on this person who may have been the one to end the relationship, the marriage. And you feel like at the very least you deserve to have financial compensation. When in fact, what really might be the ultimate sign of detachment would be like, you know what? Yeah, take it. I don't care, because I know that I am worthy and I don't have to worry about somebody that doesn't want to be with me. Well, I don't want to be with them. And, let's go on our merry way. But it can be something entirely different from either one of these scenarios. It could just have to do with your committed partnership and how deep you're going. I was thinking, how deep is your love? I had the Bee Gees in my head for a second, because the 8th house is where the rubber meets the road, romantically speaking. It's easy to get married. It's easy to move in with someone. It's easy to slip on a ring. But the 8th house, that's the 7th house. That's all kind of like the show of the committed relationship. But the 8th house is about bearing your soul to another person. It's really about digging deep, and you're reviewing that for some reason. Some of you. Maybe you realize that there's a disconnect in your relationship and that you have been having a very superficial partnership where you don't really talk about the serious issues. It could be on your part, on their part, on both of your parts, that you kind of shy away from that. And perhaps you are becoming more aware of how that has negatively impacted the relationship. Maybe there's not that strong emotional bonding that needs to take place. And you're going to kind of be reviewing that. What's very interesting is on the 8th, there's a new moon in that 7th house. So it's like a new day is dawning. As you start to go over some of the issues that may have kind of been swept under the rug, because the 8th house is about those secrets or maybe those buried emotions that you didn't really acknowledge to even yourself. Well, it's mostly, I would say, to others that you've kind of kept bottled up within yourself. And maybe you're going to let those out, and maybe you're going to risk everything to share how you really feel about the relationship and things like that. Because perhaps there was some issue back in the spring. Of course, I'm talking about the Northern Hemisphere. I'm talking around, I would say, the end of March or so, where it threatened to end your relationship. And maybe you've been working on it. And this is really the crunch time, but actually a very good time to strengthen that bond. And by the way, at the time of this new moon, this could be a new development in any kind of probate issue as well. On the 9th, the next day, Mercury goes into that 8th house. So now you're really talking about some deep stuff. You're bringing your conversations into that area. It's not just your feelings, but it's your talk, having long discussions about what has been going on for you. Maybe things that you didn't share before. The sun goes into this sector on the 23rd, and so more light is shining on this kind of like secretive area, and that's good. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So getting, kind of making it easier to share, because Mercury is there. So making it easier because there's the sun brings all kinds of warmth and just vitality to this area. And then on the very next day, there's a full moon in Taurus, which is your second house of earned income. So you see that 2nd, 8th polarity that's really bringing money issues to the fore. And the full moon in the 2nd house can kind of like bring a culmination. I think that could be a boost to your income. In some cases, depending on your particular circumstance, if you're retiring, that could be an end of a source of income, or you're quitting a particular job. But, speaking of jobs or careers, you do have Saturn now direct in the 10th house of career. And you have all this stuff happening. I'm going to pause this. I want to see where Mars is. I have just started to do these readings, so I didn't even bring Mars into the first reading I did, because Mars is in Aquarius all month long. It's not changing signs. But there is a significance with Mars in that it was still in its shadow up until, I believe, around the 11th of the month. I believe it was at 10 degrees when it retrograded back in June. So that's a good date, I think, for you, because you're ruled by Mars. So that might kind of indicate a turning point of sorts. Let me just double check on that. I guess it was 9 degrees. So let me alter that, that timing that I just said. Hold on. So I would say on the 9th, well, yeah, no, I'd still say the 11th, because the 9th is when it retrograded. So let's get past that hump. And it's fully move, forward on the 11th. And this means that look to that period, the last 2/3 of October, for you, Aries, to fully move on with your life in whatever way may have been kind of lagging a little bit for you. If you look at it as the house of the self, being the first house, it may have just been a general feeling, maybe even physical, that you were not feeling as energized in a sense. Obviously, this is not, actually, this is affecting for you your 11th house because it's in Aquarius. It's not affecting your actual first house, but because you're ruled by it, we can associate the influence of feeling not as vital just on the basis of that. But it has been in that 11th house, and it actually went back into your 10th house in Capricorn at some point. But now it's back in the 11th house, and you really are about your dreams. I don't know how this might manifest for you, but I just have a feeling that a lot of Aries people felt thwarted somehow, maybe since June, and you felt like something that you wanted to have happen didn't happen. Maybe you're right on the edge of realizing one of your dreams. Doesn't have to be related to career, but it could have been. And then all of a sudden something shifted or it slowed down, and now you're just doubling down, wanting to see the results. And on the 31st, Mercury goes into Sagittarius, which is a fellow fire sign, great trine, easy flowing energy, 9th house, higher education. So you might be enrolling in a class or auditing a class perhaps. This could be researching travel, long distance travel, if that's something you want to take. And what else? Even something related to maybe studying something spiritually based. And on the same day, Venus goes back into that 7th house. It is in retrograde motion. You are kind of retracing your steps, but it is an internalized thing. It is a time to really question your values when it comes to love and your ideas of partnership. Aries is a very aggressive, externalized or extroverted type of a sign. You are very vigorous, being ruled by Mars. There's a lot of physicality that I associate with Mars and Aries. And yet, the 7th house is all about cooperation, partnership, and things like that. So this is your opposite sign and what it represents, and integrating this kind of influence. How can you become more cooperative, Aries? Do you have a tendency to think to yourself, it's my way or the highway? I want things to go the way I want them to go. Are there times that you need to really become more aware of your partner's needs and take them into account? I think that for some of you, you may have even had kind of a scare where the other person threatened to leave, perhaps. And this has caused you to really do some soul searching in these areas of learning how to open up more about things that matter, not about things that are just, you're venting about, but that really don't affect you that deeply. And really express your vulnerability, because Mars, your ruler, that's the god of war. That's a warrior energy. And so you may want to look tough in order to maintain that sense of power. And your sign in, your card in the major arcana is the Emperor. And the Emperor is like the symbol of control. It's a symbol of the father, which is the authoritarian, the male authoritarian symbol. And yet, your softer side, your more vulnerable side, needs to be expressed as well. So very interesting, and I hope that you enjoyed this, Aries. If you'd like to have like a natal chart interpretation, some kind of astrological reading, I'm going to link both of the pure astrology readings that I do below. Have a great month. Bye.